What is up, roller coaster gamers? We're back with another versus battle today, and in this one we have Intimidator at Carowinds and Goliath at 650 Georgia, the two B&M hypercoasters I have ridden. Um, both of these rides are really good. So they're both by B&M. They're both hypercoasters, and we're gonna get into this battle right now. Sometimes I have trouble deciding between these two because they're both great. So let's get into this, starting with the stats. Intimidator's height is 232 feet, has max speed of 75 miles per hour, 5,316 feet of track. The duration is a 3 minutes and 33-second ride time, and the drop is 211 feet. Now, that's around what a lot of hypercoasters are at. It's not too short. In terms of like roller coasters in general, that's pretty up there. But for hypercoaster stats, not just being in hypers, for other hypercoasters, it's just in the middle, probably for in the range of how tall they can be for hypercoasters. So nice. And Goliath is a bit shorter, and the stats aren't quite as good. We have a height of 200 feet, so just barely making it a hypercoaster. It has top speed 70 miles per hour. The length is 4,480 feet of track. Now, when I use RCDB to get some of these stats, some of these I already know, but I did not find an official duration on their site. So and I looked up a duration online, and it said, like on Google, and it said 4 minutes, and I don't believe it's actually 4 minutes. It definitely doesn't feel that way. So I just said there's no official duration, so no official ride time. And then the drop is 175 feet, and actually something that's interesting, it's not a really big deal though, is that the second drop is bigger than the first one, because the first one kind of drops on top of that hill and on top of some stuff, and then the second drop goes all the way down. So, but the second drop is only 5 feet taller than the first drop by 5 feet, but it would be much bigger than the first drop if it didn't have to pass over the road, because the second drop goes right over the road, so it doesn't go all the way to the ground. So it would be a bigger difference, but pass over the road. So it's only bigger than the first drop by 5 feet, and but the first drop is steeper. So in terms of stats, Intimidator is definitely superior here. Definitely better stats. And though Intimidator has a bigger top speed, when I get to elements and what I think of these rides, I think, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I think Goliath feels faster for some reason. Maybe it's because Intimidator has a lot of higher turns, and Goliath has more low to the ground turns, so maybe that has something to do with it, but it's whatever. Intimidator wins for stats, okay? So now we move on to elements, and red is Intimidator, orange is Goliath, and I didn't put the actual names because I didn't feel like it, because you can probably tell by the color of the font. And yeah, of course, Intimidator has a drop. It has a big turn. I'm talking about that L-shaped turn right after the first drop, and it's kind of weird. It's like you're going to a floater airtime hill, but then you bank at the very top. So it has 3 normal shaped airtime hills. That's during the out and return trip. So you have one big airtime hill after that L-shaped turn. You have a turnaround, which is like a hammerhead turn, but doesn't really feel like a hammerhead turn. It feels like a normal turnaround. And then you have 2 normal airtime hills following that. All the other airtime moments are on like turns, like are going into turns like that first L-shaped turn. There's like this weird helix at the end that has an airtime moment going into it, an airtime moment going out of it. And yeah, it's all floater airtime and everything. So you have a turnaround, which is that turn I was talking about, that hammerhead turn, and then you have a mid-course, which I believe most B&M hypercoasters, at least for the ones that are over 200 feet, the B&M has made hypercoaster models that are less than 200 feet, but they're not technically hypers because they're less than 200 feet, but they're considered that type of model. So for actual hypercoaster level, Intimidator is like most that have a mid-course brake run. Goliath is one of the only B&M hypers that doesn't have a mid-course brake run, so that's good. So it goes through the whole thing without stopping. It does have one trim at the bottom of the helix, but it doesn't really. The Intimidator has a lot more trims and stuff than Goliath does. They don't particularly bother me that much, but they do. That, like I was saying, I said that Goliath feels faster. I think because Intimidator has those trims, it makes it. That's probably the main reason why I think Goliath feels faster, because those trims on Intimidator make the ride feel slower. It's not slow by any means, but it just makes the pacing seem odd. So, and it also has cool trains. I like Intimidator has one of my favorite train designs. I love the stadium style seating. You have the two seats together, two apart. I really like sitting on one of the outer seats because you really feel open. It feels like a seat just on a random platform, like on the thing. So you feel very open. Goliath has the normal B&M trains for hypercoasters, and they're good and all, but I really love Intimidator's trains. So and because Intimidator's trains are bigger, it's a bigger difference from the front seat and the back seat than Goliath because they're longer. But they have around the same amount of seats, I think. But Goliath has a second drop bigger than the first, but not as steep. I already mentioned that. It has 5 normal airtime hills, and it has this little one going into the final brake run. And it has a lower to the ground turns, unlike Intimidator, which has a bunch of higher above ground bank turns, and it also has a sharp hammerhead turn, like right before you go into those 3 camelback hills back to back, which is one of the best parts of the ride. And I'll get to that when I start talking about the overall experience. And then it has a double downward helix, which is it's people say you gray out on it. I never grayed out on it. It's not that intense, but it is the most forceful part of the ride, and it is really cool. As a normal B&M hypercoaster trains, I already mentioned that, and so we're gonna get I think Intimidator has the better trains. Also, Intimidator is a bit smoother. I noticed that it doesn't really bother me that much, but a lot of people, some people complain about is that Goliath has a bit of a rattle just at the bottom of each drop, but it doesn't really bother me that much. I honestly don't really care. I just really like the rest. I just like the whole ride. So I think for this, Intimidator is smoother, is a bit taller, but and is a bit longer, and but it just feels more sluggish than Goliath. It feels like the pacing, because of those trims, kind of makes it weird. I don't know, but I think Goliath has better airtime, even though because Goliath has more. Intimidator is all floater airtime, not a single ejector moment. Goliath, that last hill going into the brakes, and some of those 3 airtime hills back to back give a little mix of both floater and ejector, which is kind of cool. So I think for airtime, Goliath is superior, and for forces and for the overall ride, I just think Goliath is better, even though it's not as tall or as fast. So definitely in stats, Intimidator's better, but I think Goliath as an overall ride, I just for some reason like it just feels more thrilling to me, or for some reason, I don't know. It has a bigger package in terms of the elements. So here we got some pictures. Here we have Intimidator. We have the lift hill and drop right there. There's the drop. The drop is definitely bigger than Goliath. There's Goliath's drop right there. That drop is definitely bigger. There's that hammerhead turnaround. It doesn't really feel like a hammerhead turnaround to me, but here you got those airtime hills right there, and there's that big L-shaped turn I was talking about. You go up and then you turn like that, and then you have some airtime hills right there, and you can kind of see the seats right there, there's two together and then two apart, two together, two apart, and I really like the seating on it. And here with Goliath, we have the first drop and stuff. We have a turn here. Here's that awesome double helix, great part. This is that second drop that's in fact bigger than the first one, and it goes out over the road. There's Georgia Scorcher behind it, and there's Georgia Scorcher behind it right there. There's the big floater airtime hill. Here's one of the smaller hills. Here's it going over the little pond there, and that's a really cool shot right there. And I think Intimidator has the better color scheme because Goliath seems faded and everything. I think they should repaint it. Keep it. I'm fine with the orange. I think it just like look. This is like when it first like you can tell that in this picture and like this picture it looks a lot better. But in some of these shots like here and especially here, look how faded it is. This is what it looks like now. I think they need to do something about it. But especially now that Georgia Scorcher originally was the coaster at 6 Eyes Over Georgia, I said get it repainted. But now I'd say Goliath is the next in line that should get repainted. Keep it orange, though. I don't want them to paint another coaster at 6 Eyes Over Georgia red. We already have 3 coasters now that are red. Make the general public too confused, but I'm getting on a tangent now. But Intimidator has better theming, but it's right next to the parking lot. I think Goliath's setting is a bit better, but at least Intimidator, both of these you get an awesome view when you're driving up to the parks. You get awesome views of both of these coasters. Like when we drive to 6 Eyes Over Georgia, we go on I-20, which is the highway that it's off of. And we go down this hill because we're north of it, northeast of 6 Eyes Over Georgia. So we're driving in, and you first see it going down this hill, and you see everything. You see Acrophobia, Sky Screamer, Goliath, and it looks really cool. Intimidator, you see, like you really get the best view of it from the parking lot, and it really looks stunning right there. So in the end, Intimidator has better stats, has the best trains, and is overall smoother of a ride. But Goliath has better pacing, has more airtime, is more intense, and for that reason, I declare Goliath the winner of this versus. So again, both are great rides. If you tell me if you like Intimidator better or if you like me and you like Goliath better, let me know, and I'll make sure to do more of these verses in the videos in the future. See you guys.